PICS is an acronym for Partnership for Innovation in Compensation for Charter Schools. PICS is a consortium of charter schools located in New York and New Jersey. These schools share resources to recruit, retain, and reward top quality educators, and in effect, improve students' educational experience. These participating charter schools are all using the PICS teacher evaluation process to make informed decisions about students and teachers. The ultimate goal of our evaluation process is to improve the professional life of educators in our charter schools. In short, we strive to make good teachers great. While the evaluation provides individualized feedback to teachers, it's worth noting that throughout the evaluation process, there are many opportunities for teachers to engage in professional learning communities and support one another in tasks such as setting student growth targets or sharing in peer-to-peer classroom observations. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What is the teacher evaluation process? This approach to teacher evaluation draws upon multiple measures to get a fair picture of a teacher's practice. In this system, teachers earn scores within two components. Number one, student growth at the individual student level, and number two, teacher professional practice as measured through multiple classroom observations. So let's start with the first component, student growth. This component is worth up to 40 of 100 points on a teacher's evaluation. At the outset of each school year, after a pre-test or diagnostic assessment has been administered, teachers begin working together to set reasonable and rigorous growth targets for each student. Where should this individual student be at the end of the year? And how do I measure their growth? Well, we do know that two assessments are better than just a one-shot deal. Multiple measures, right? So our schools use two assessments. For example, state test results and student portfolios. The principal will approve the growth targets set for each student. At the end of the year, the question each teacher asks is, what % of my students met their targets? So the key takeaways about this portion of the teacher evaluation system are, we are measuring student growth, not attainment. We know students don't enter a teacher's classroom at the same level, so we can't expect all students to end up at the same level either. Number two, teachers use multiple measures of assessment for each student. Number three, we look at each teacher's students, not school-wide growth. So each teacher is responsible for the growth of the students that he or she instructs on a regular basis. Now I will talk about the second component of teacher evaluation. Worth up to 60 of 100 points on a teacher's evaluation is professional practice through multiple classroom observations using a research-based rubric. Our schools use Charlotte Danielson's framework for teaching for the most part. A few schools use Marshall or Marzano. Using Charlotte Danielson's framework, there are 4 domains that should be observed. Domain 1, planning and preparation. An example of this domain is designing coherent instruction. Domain number 2, the classroom environment, such as managing student behavior. Domain 3, instruction. An example here is engaging students in learning. Domain 4, professional responsibilities, for example, participating in a professional community. Because teaching is complex and there are so many actions and behaviors to measure, the idea here is that a principal will conduct many classroom observations in order to collect evidence of a teacher's effectiveness in all the components within the shared definition of good teaching. There are many opportunities for teachers to share their own evidence with the supervisor, in addition to sharing their reflections and self-evaluations. At the end of the year, the supervisor will take into account all of the evidence collected or provided by the teacher over the year and arrive at a summative evaluation score using that rubric. So the key takeaways for this component of the teacher evaluation system are, number 1, each school must first agree on a research-based rubric so that they have a shared expectation about what good teaching looks like. This requires training and time for teachers to dive into the rubric and get comfortable with it. Number 2, again, we are talking about a year's worth of evidence, never a single classroom visit. What we see in this scenario is that the teacher and the supervisor develop an ongoing professional dialogue throughout the year about what is happening in the classroom. Number 3, the teacher can use these observations to reflect and make improvements over the year. So there's a sense of transparency, formative observations, and continuous reflection and growth. So now a teacher has a score of 0 to 40 based on their students' growth, and a score of 0 to 60 based on observations. Together, those scores are combined for a score of up to 100 and an associated rating of highly effective, effective, developing, or ineffective. So now we have data that can be used by a teacher for self-reflection and by a principal for decisions about mentoring, ongoing professional development and growth, compensation, and teacher movement along a career ladder.